Hey everybody, it's Eric over at Breakthrough Broker. We have a special guest today. Excited to be talking about websites, its reach. I'm going to explain why I wanted to have Cameron on today in a minute. But first and foremost, as always, tell me where you're calling in from today, please. I am in Denver, believe it or not, today. So I'm calling in from Denver. Cameron, where are you at?
I'm over in Las Vegas.
Hot or what?
Yeah, I mean, they say it's been a mild summer because we haven't had a ton of days over 110, but
Yeah,
I'm
not
from the
here.
Pacific Northwest, so this is brutal.
So I see Oakland, I see Southeast Georgia, Florida border, Montana. Hey, Kent, Fort Worth, Texas, Christina, hello, hello, Columbus, Ohio. Thanks, guys. Let me know where you're calling in from. Today, we're going to be talking about agent websites. Now, guys, there's so much going on in the technology landscape of our business right now. And I think oftentimes we as realtors feel like we should or have to have our own website for validation, for search. But today I was a victim of this. I did this myself. Um, we just set up the website, let it go, and don't even think about it again. So I really wanted to get you guys on and have a recorded webinar for Breakthrough Broker ecosystem that talks about your website, what it needs to do for you, what it should do for you. And Cameron is an expert at that. He comes to us from Real Geeks, and Cameron's going to talk about effective agent websites, things that will help you leverage your website to grow your business. And so let's just see. I see another Las Vegas Menlo Park, a few Las Vegases, Cypress, Texas, New Jersey. Hello, Brenda, my whole family, and Douglas, my whole family's in Jersey. Munster, Indiana, welcome, Michigan, Northern Virginia, Littleton, Colorado. Robert, that's where I grew up. Fort Myers, Florida, Gilbert, Arizona, Dallas, Salem, welcome everybody. Teresa, I'm in Denver if you didn't hear. I think we're going to turn it over to Cameron. And Cameron, go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell them what you do at Real Geeks. And then as an expert in agent websites, you take it and tell everyone on this call or watching the recording what they can do to make their website more than just something they did because they think they have to do it. Sound good?
Yeah, that's great. I appreciate the introduction. One thing I will say is the website itself, especially for those of us that are not familiar with technology, if you've been in the business for probably 10 plus years, this might be something that you've been dragging your feet because, technology, websites, it's a whole separate thing. You're real estate agents, you're not tech experts. I will say some of it can be complicated, but the vast majority of real estate websites, they are not that complicated. It's little things like Eric said, don't just set it and forget it. We do want to make sure it's working and things are up and running. But we also want to make sure it's a real estate website. There's a lot of stuff that makes a website different from a real estate website. And so we're going to get into those details. But yeah, so my name is Cameron. I'm the affiliate channel manager here at Real Geeks. Been with the company for about 5 years, and really have had the opportunity to work with Eric and Breakthrough Broker the entire time as well. So I'm very excited to be here. What I wanted to do today is really discuss some of the few things that we come across often. The main focus is really make sure we can see that. Can we all see the screen? Eric, are we good?
Yep, we're good. You're good, buddy.
Perfect. Okay. Yeah. So, like I said, we work. We've been around for almost 20 years now, and so we have a pretty big sample size as far as what we're hearing in the industry, what we're seeing. There's a lot of kind of myths that are out there about this. So, I wanted to talk mainly about some things that if you have a website, these are things we can implement to start getting more traction. And if you don't have a website yet, this is definitely something you should look into and things to implement as you're moving forward. So what we're going to discuss first, though, is sort of a high level view of what is search engine optimization, and how do search engines work in general. This is going to be sort of lecture style, so I do apologize. Hang with me for a couple minutes before we get into the kind of live demo. The reason I wanted to bring it up is because there are so many misconceptions about what SEO is. Everyone throws around the term, saying, yeah, I have it, I don't have it, this is good for it, this is bad for it. I will tell you, Eric has called me an expert. I personally am not the expert, but I work with the experts and we know the experts. And so we all work together to put this sort of in a class fashion to really hit the high level. I do have an extra class that goes a little more into the weeds on what it is. So if you're interested or want to learn more, feel free to reach out to me afterwards and we can get that going. But then, like I said, we're going to go into the website must-haves. These are things that a lot of our agents, our top producers, are putting into play to really maximizing their presence. Again, we have learned that there are things that separate a website from a real estate website. Any of you that have ever tried to build your own website on a platform like a Wix or WordPress or something like that, you've probably run into this issue, right? Where the website itself, it's fine, it looks great, but if you're missing things like MLS information or a home valuation tool, market reports, even simple tools like a mortgage calculator, something like that, you really find that your website is acting more like an online business card than it is a lead generator, right? So we really want to cover some of the more popular pages to get more ROI out of your online presence. So jumping into it, right? The definition, what is SEO? In simple terms, it is just the process of improving a website's visibility to search engines like Google, Bing, Yahoo. There's several others out there, so that your website appears higher in those search engine results pages, right? SERP is what it's called. And so as it relates to your content, your products, or your services. So that is kind of the high level, simple definition of what SEO is. Getting a little bit granular though, SEO is really made up of three main pillars. And this is what search engines use to kind of judge the quality of the website and its content, right? So it's the acronym of EAT. E is expertise. The content you have, is it accurate? Is it up-to-date information, right? So we want to think live listings from the MLS. And are you getting your information from reliable sources, right? Like local boards. So this is also for any of you that do have your own website. There is a website provider that will pull directly from the MLS. And then there's website providers that you need a third party tool, some type of IDX middleman to pull the info from the MLS and then put it on your website. If your provider can pull it directly from the MLS, it's going to be more credible than if you were to use one of those third-party brokers. So just kind of food for thought on that. Okay, and the authority, right? Is the information consistent? Is it high quality information? And does your website have that positive reputation score across the internet, right? We're talking Google reviews, testimonials, things like that, backlinks if your website's mentioned on other websites in the same vertical, think real estate. We'll do more on backlinks later. But essentially, do search engines view your website as the authority in real estate when it comes to those searches? And then lastly, the trustworthiness, right? Is your website, is it secure? We'll talk briefly about security. Is the information accurate? Notice there's a lot of kind of repeating themes when it comes to this. And then do you have transparent contact information, right, for the site owner? We've run into several websites where they try to do a very unbranded, hands-off version of this is what the real estate website is. But if you try and contact them, there is no way to reach out, right? And that's actually a downgrade as far as our search engines are concerned. So when it comes to everything that search engines look at, right, they're going to fall into those three pillars of one of the EAT buckets. But to make it more applicable, we're going to look at these main 6 metrics according to Google and how they affect your search engine optimization the most, right? There's so many factors, and honestly, the algorithms of the search engines, not only is Google different than Yahoo, is different than Bing, but they're all constantly changing, right? So it is, if you're trying to pay attention to the million things they look at, we're going to struggle. We just want to focus on the ones that are going to help you optimize the most. And that's what these are. So the first one is going to be traffic, right? Specifically, organic traffic. So this is how many visitors come to your website from an unpaid search result, right? So this is kind of that overall search visibility. search engines know, they can determine when someone has come to your website via like pay-per-click or some other type of paid advertising, and they keep those metrics completely separated. So if your website has 1,000 views from an ad, it does not count towards that higher site ranking. Whereas if you had 1,000 visitors that navigated to your site organically, meaning some type of campaign, whether it's direct mail or social media, or maybe they did a Google search and they found your site, that has the massive impact on traffic. So the first kind of key factor of increasing your SEO is traffic, and we'll touch a little bit more on that in a minute. Next is keywords. Keywords, actually, both in terms of quantity and quality, this is how they determine where your page ranks for how many keywords are on the page. And keywords are really any word can be a keyword. This is just how it relates to the searches that are being done, right? So this is titles and headers on your page, the content. If you have an image on your website and the name of the image is numbers, letters, symbols, Google doesn't know what that is, right? So if you have an image of a fountain in downtown Henderson on Water Street, you got to make sure the name of that image is Henderson Water Street, right? Google knows what that is. So even images can have a lot of impact on that. So literally anything, everything on your website has keywords. Very high level. There is a difference between a short tail and a long tail keyword for any of you that have heard those phrases. So without really getting too deep, think of short tail keywords as things like real estate, homes for sale, right? These are extremely vague. Everything falls under that umbrella. Every real estate website has it. You can't afford to not have those though, right? So we want to compete with everybody else. But what we're really looking for at the end of the day is going to be the longer tail keywords, right? So instead of just real estate, it's going to be something more like 4-bedroom waterfront homes for sale downtown, right? Super long, super specific. There's not going to be as many searches for that, but there's also not as much competition for that search, right? So they're pretty important to have for those. CTR, right? This is called the click-through rate. This is essentially the percentage of people that are clicking your site as a search result. And I'll pull up a screenshot here in a minute to kind of break it down a little bit more. But basically, they're not always, as a consumer, they're not always clicking that first link and then staying there. Sometimes they're clicking the back button, or they're just navigating down to find a page that they feel matches their search better, right? Because sometimes maybe their prompt isn't exactly what they were talking about. So as your page starts appearing on searches, on the search engine results pages, having people click and stay on them, that's going to be massive in terms of ranking, right? Your click-through rate is going to be better, which goes hand in hand with the bounce rate, right? Which is the opposite. How quickly people leave your site or hit the back button. Typically, this means either your content didn't match what they were looking for, or it could be something a little bit more technical, right? Maybe that person thought your page was just too difficult to navigate. Maybe it took too long to load. Goes right into load speed, right? See how we're all going to be connected on all these terms, right? Load speed has a massive impact on search engine optimization, partially on the technical side, right? Because Google is mapping and indexing these pages. They know it takes too long to load. But the internet today is lightning fast, even compared to 10, 15 years ago. And as a modern day consumer, that is now our expectation. So we're impatient, and a slow website frustrates us. So we are impatient enough to the point where there's studies out there that have shown that if your website takes even just 3 seconds for your website to actually load, 40% of that traffic has already hit the back button and gone to another website, right? So not only is load speed bad on the technical side, but that's going to be affecting your bounce rate, your click-through rate. So it's all kind of interconnected there. So we want to make sure that our websites don't have too many, videos that are auto playing, or, moving images that are going around. So we just want to pay attention to that. And then, like I said, backlinks, right? Backlinks are another thing that we're going to look at. This is simply put a link that exists on the internet somewhere that's not your website, but it does link back to your website, hence backlink, right? So what we want to know about this is the more backlinks that exist, the better it's going to be, the more channels people have to get to your website. And obviously, it's going to increase that reputation score from those search engines. We do get confusion here on this, so I want to note that those of you that are very active on social media, one key factor here is people don't go to social media to look for real estate. So social media is an amazing place to generate leads and get new traffic, but we always want to be linking back to the website, whether it's the homepage or something like that. But social media links do not actually count as backlinks, right? We want it from a blog post or from somebody else's website, a lender's page, something like that. We want that to be coming back to the website. They do boost SEO if you're using backlinks in social media, because that's traffic that's coming to the website, but not for the backlink aspect. At the end of the day, search engine optimization is specifically impacted by the amount of traffic over time, right? All of those things we just talked about impact traffic, they impact the amount of time. So that's really what we want to focus on. SEO is not something you have or you don't have, right? Unless you don't have a website at all. And then obviously you don't have SEO. But those of you that do have websites, you're not sitting there at zero, right? But the main goal is to try and optimize what your website, what your online presence looks like to be able to get that fast track, right? So the higher optimized we have, the more traffic we're going to get faster. And this is what's going to help separate you from the competitors, your colleagues, and all of that out there. Eric, as far as SEO goes, were there any questions on that before we go to the search engine portion?
Nope, I'm seeing some agreement with slow websites are frustrating and irritating,
Yeah.
which we all
Yeah.
know.
It's sat, I
Um,
mean, 3 seconds, if you sat there and timed it, 3 seconds is nothing. But then you go to a search engine, you click on a website, and I mean, 3 seconds is the most infuriating thing
of
ever. It's kind of
course.
sad.
Let's keep going. I want to see you looking at some websites.
Yep. Okay, perfect. So understanding SEO, why it's important, that's awesome. And really today, instead of just sharing the important website pages, I thought it was more important to understand why they're important. So or why they're impacted by these search engines. And so talked about SEO. Quickly going to go over just how search engine result pages actually work, right? It's not something where again, Google and Yahoo and Bing, they rank their pages differently. But I will say, as a search engine, Google has over 90% of the market share. So Bing has 3%, I think. Yahoo is 1%. So we want to not ignore those, but we really kind of want to follow what Google says as far as what they do, because you're going to get more bang for your buck. So along with kind of that using the EAT analogy earlier, right? We want to, your expertise, your authority, your trustworthiness. What do search engine results pages actually use to rank once they've been found as a website? How do they put them up there? It's obviously going to start with the content, right? How well your text, your images, and your media matches the search terms, right? So that's very similar to just how the page or how to increase your SEO. And this is how it's going to be ranked. So if somebody is searching for, best banana bread recipe, your top listings under 500,000 page, that's not going to match, right? Because those search terms don't match the results on your website. Excuse me. So we want to make sure when people are doing real estate searches, that's where your website has those with the content. The on-page optimization, this covers a handful of different things, but mainly we're looking at the titles, the tags, but essentially back to the keywords. The more keywords you have that match the search, the higher you're going to rank with that search engine. Again, this keywords alone could be its own like hour-long situation, but as I mentioned earlier, going to show a screenshot here. So I did a quick search for Summerlin South Homes. That's a community here in Las Vegas. And so these were the top 3 results that came. So what I want to look at is the top 3 results here in bold. That's the meta title, right? That's what's called the meta title. It's the title of the page, right? So if the search performed matches the title of your page, that's going to have a much higher rank than if you just had those keywords somewhere on the page, right? So title is first and foremost what they're going to look at. And also when the results come up, that's where you're going to be clicking on, right? If I want to go to this Redfin page, I'm not clicking on this down here. I'm going to be clicking on the title of the page. So that's what it is. So homes for sale in Summerlin South, you could bring up several different websites, but that's what you're going to click on. That's the meta title. Now, the meta description is the text underneath that. And the reason this is important is because it actually summarizes the page. Sometimes it's taken directly from content on that page. Other websites actually have back end data that you can put in as your description, which isn't actually seen by me, the consumer, but it is seen by the search engines, right? So either way, that's important because you might have, in this case, there's a million pages for Summerlin South real estate or Summerlin South homes for sale. So then they're going to check next, well, who has the meta description that matches that better, right? So it starts with the title, then it goes to the description.
Hey,
So the
Cameron,
mobile,
question.
yeah,
Do any of these things, let's say the consumer starts to use Chat GPT for search. Does this stuff help? Like how are we optimizing for AI search?
yes. So it does help because it's going to increase how your website is found and organized. I think, just like Google and Yahoo and Bing have their own different algorithms, I'm sure that ChatGPT and Gemini and these other ones, they probably have their own, how they do their searches. But yes, absolutely. Those are, smarter search engines. They're just scanning the web for the same type of information. They're just displaying it a little bit differently. So as far as, like a Chat GPT goes, I'm not familiar with exactly their algorithm and how it's different. But it's going to be using the same principles, right? How big is your website? How's the reputation score? How are your keywords? It's all going to play into the same thing.
Perfect.
Okay, mobile experience. So the mobile friendliness of this is obviously big because as the modern day consumer, most of us are browsing the internet on a mobile device versus our computers, right? Versus a desktop. So even if you build a great website on your desktop, it doesn't always translate to how it looks on a phone or a tablet, right? So if you've got one that's got, complicated images, there's a bunch of drop down lists, there's moving parts, it might look good on the desktop, but it could also cause issues with the mobile experience. And maybe 2 years ago, I probably wouldn't have had this on the slide, but the reason I bring it up is because as a user that might be frustrating, but we have actually learned that Google and some of the search engines are probably going to be following suit, but they are actually doing a mobile first view of the website before they do the desktop view. So if those metrics are struggling on a mobile device, the search engines are going to see that before they see how great your desktop version is, right? So just be aware, and you might have a great looking desktop website with all of those things, and it looks great on the mobile. But if any of you have a website that you've tried to build yourself, or maybe you built it, several years ago, go back and check, make sure it looks good on your cell phone as well. Because again, user experience might not be great, but search engines are looking at the mobile experience first. The security portion, I don't want to get too into this, but essentially, when you look at a URL, you go to breakthroughbroker.com, you're going to type in www dot whatever the address is.com. That's what we see as the consumer. But if you were to copy paste that, it's actually going to have the HTTPS colon slash slash and then the website, right? For most of us, we don't pay attention to that. Just know that there's a difference between HTTP and HTTPS, right? One is hypertext transfer protocol, the other one is secure. Again, 5 years ago, I probably wouldn't have even brought it up, but we know now that Google actually uses that S, the security, as a ranking signal. So most browsers, Chrome, Safari, Microsoft Edge, all of those, when you go to an HTTP website, they actually say up in the URL, not secure. So they are actually changing this around to make sure that I, as the consumer, know that I'm on a secure website. So it could scare people away. So again, if you have a website that you've had for 5+ years or so, go back and check, make sure it is HTTPS and not just that P, Google and the other search engines do use that. If it is just the P, don't worry about it. Super easy. If you've got a Google domain or GoDaddy, most of them have instructions on how to get that security certificate. It's a super easy switch. Just make sure that you've got that in play. Crawlability and indexing. Again, this is probably the most technical aspect we'll get into because I think it's the one that most real estate agents mess up on as they're building a web page, as they're creating new landing pages for that site as well. Essentially, what we want to do in this is note that the search engines use these little bots, these little spiders, whatever we want to call them. They roam the internet 24/7. They map and index on their own internal server. So Google is different than Yahoo, is different than Bing. But essentially, if your website is not easy for them to map and index, so if the pages aren't created properly, if they're all on different levels, it's hard for them to see the website, and therefore it's not going to come up on these these searches. So as a quick overview, right, this is kind of a truncated version of it. But if you are looking to build a website that's homes for sale in Austin, Texas, right, that's my home page, homes for sale in Austin, Texas. Below that, I want to build a page for single family homes, for condos, for land, all in Austin, right? So that's kind of level one is the name of the page. Level two is going to be the types of properties within that. Now, level three, maybe I want to add price points to that. So I'm going to add under 500,000, 500 to 1 million, and then, that should be over 1 million. Anyway, so those are condos, right? But I maybe have that same search for land. Maybe I have the same one for single family homes. But really what we want to look at here is those pages aren't all stemming off from the main page, or condos under 500,000 is not on the same level as just the condos page, right? We want to make sure that, sort of like building a tree, we want to make sure that at the top it's narrow and it gets wider as we go. Because again, that is how these pages are mapped and indexed. So we want to make sure it's very easy for the search engines to understand. Okay, so that kind of wraps up the whole high-level brief. Sorry, that lecture, it went a couple minutes longer than I wanted. So we're going to switch gears into kind of the actual live demo of it. Eric, did you have any questions before I move on?
Nope, keep going, buddy.
Perfect. All right. So we're going to talk about some of the must-haves, right? Some of these are pages, some of these are just tools. But essentially, these are the things that we're seeing our top producers just leverage the heck out of, and they are seeing a lot of return on it. So the first one is going to be a home valuation tool. Ideally, if you have a website out there, it already has some type of home valuation tool that's connected to it. But if it doesn't, obviously there are a ton of third-party tools. I know HomeBot, Cloud CMA has one. There's a ton out there. If you have a website, make sure it has one of these, especially if you're looking to pick up seller leads. This is by far the most successful lead generation tool that you could use. And we want to make sure that it's not just on your page, you're actually using it, you're leveraging it, you're advertising it. Any type of digital marketing that you're doing should include a link to the home valuation. If you're doing print media, have a QR code that goes to the home valuation. If you're knocking on doors, if you're cold calling, hey, Eric, I talked to a couple of your neighbors and they've requested that I send them a monthly valuation. Is that something you'd like to receive as well, right? We need to change that conversation from, Eric, are you still the owner at 123 Main Street? That's a dead talk track. Use a tool like this where they get that fear, oh man, I don't want to miss out. All my neighbors are getting it. And I've also positioned myself as, the authority in real estate. So of course they're going to give me their email. And even if they're getting a home valuation from a couple, I've got 5 different ones. I've got a lender, I've got one from a couple agents, right? So why not get another one? Everyone likes to see this. When it comes to the home valuation, what we're looking for, we want an estimate. We want to see something that they can actually put their eyes on, right? If you're using the Zillow Zestimate, I would refrain from that. I would look at some other tool. I think we've seen historically that Zestimate is not always the best number to look at. But again, there's other tools to use. If you are using that, I would kind of, switch out. The other thing we don't want to see is Eric puts in his information, contact info, address, all that. And then the next page he sees is, hey, thanks for submitting your information. Cameron will reach out soon. right? That doesn't feel good. It feels gimmicky. They've lost my trust. We want to make sure when they put their information in, it does actually display this, right? And it can have a whole lot to it. It might just be a number. It could be arranged like this. And as we scroll down on this page, we can see a bunch of different information. On this one specifically, the lead can come in, they can move some things around. I've done this for a couple months, so I can start seeing as a historical number, which everybody loves to see, especially in a market like this where, it's just going to go up year over year. So we want to keep looking at it. And ultimately, every one of these buttons is going to be some type of call to action that's going to be contacting the agent. So the more of these buttons and stuff, they all look different. Contact me, edit my value, edit my bedrooms. How do I build more equity? Every one of these is just going to send a message to you, the agent, right? So the more that we can interact with our leads, the better. Anything on the home valuation, Eric?
Nope, keep going.
All right. Okay, so now what we want to look at are neighborhood and area pages. So this is an example website that we have for any of you that are curious, instantrg.com. You can all navigate to it. There is a CRM on the back, but you can put in your information to look at stuff. We don't do anything with that. So if you want to check out one of the example websites, you can play around with that. But really, what we want to focus on is that a lot of real estate websites out there, they have ways for leads to do like an advanced search or maybe a map search, which is awesome, right? That's better than not having something. But those really are not unique landing pages that are pre-built and they can't be found by search engines. So being able to, in this case, this website is in ARMLS in Arizona, right? So we've built some area pages for some of those. So if I do a search for, let's take Prescott, for example. If I do a search for homes for sale in Prescott, if you have a website that allows for a lead to, from the homepage, do a search and they draw a map around Prescott or they type in Prescott, that's one thing. But there is no Prescott page that's actually built already. And so if somebody does a search for homes in Prescott, your website will not populate because it doesn't actually have that page. So we want to make sure that you have these pages pre-built because that's how it's going to pop up. So I'm going to click on Prescott just to go to the area page. And so what we're going to see, excuse me, is the title of the page, Prescott Real Estate for Sale, right? I know what that is as a consumer. Google knows what it is. So we've got the meta title, Prescott. Just below Prescott, I've got a couple paragraphs, looks like 4 paragraphs with custom content about Prescott. I know it's custom because we used an AI to, create a couple paragraphs. If 5 agents launched with a website and a landing page with Prescott, they'd have 4 different pieces of unique content, right? Whether that's you're writing it or you're using an AI tool, either way, custom content is key. But this also is a perfect opportunity for you as the local, as the expert, to flex your muscles with your knowledge in the area, right? Places to eat, local events, geography, hiking trails, you name it, right? This is where you can go in and basically fill it up with your knowledge, keeping in mind that anything you put in this content section, long tail, short tail, keywords. So if I have something about, the best hiking trails in the Southwest and somebody does a search for homes for sale with hiking trails in the Southwest or whatever, you've got an opportunity to show up because you've got long tail keywords that match that, right? Again, don't break your back on these, especially those of you that are in, an area like Phoenix has so many different communities. It's going to take you forever to write 3 to 4 paragraphs on all of those. Use an AI tool like ChatGPT or Gemini or something like that to put that in, and then go in and edit yourself if you want to add more, but let that do the heavy lifting for you. The other thing I want to note, as we talked about mapping and indexing, at the very top, you see the address, instantrg.com/listings/city/Prescott. So we know exactly what it is. Google can look at that and they can follow that tree, right? So this website is going to have a page for listings in the city of Prescott, listings city Phoenix, listings city Tempe. It's all built, it's mapped and indexed. Google knows exactly what it is, right? Another thing I will say, and this is something that I wanted to add on because we've seen a lot of agents do this, flexing your muscles with the local knowledge is huge, putting it in the content. But we've seen some agents go out there and just shoot some videos, right? Put them up on a YouTube and embed them in the video, but like you walking around an area, taking a video through the latest restaurant that's opened or the community park, a local bakery, whatever it is, it's going to boost SEO. And it's also great for the consumer, right? The user experience, because if I go to this site and Dylan's got a little video about, him going to the local bakery and getting a, fresh chocolate chip cupcake, I don't know. I can get to know Dylan. I can hear his voice, see his face. I learn his personality. So it's a great way for you to kind of separate yourself as well. You become a human to your leads versus just, a real estate salesperson that's out there. Okay, so the must-have number 3, I'm going to transition right into this. This is not necessarily a page. This is more of pages that you should have, or a function that your website should have. A well-developed sidebar. That's this over here. What we want to see is a bunch of pages that are linking back to other pages, or a bunch of links that are linking back to pages on your website. This is not considered a backlink because it's all internally on your page. But what we want to see here is, as a lead is going to Prescott Homes, right? That's a pretty big search. If I were to do Prescott Homes, that's probably thousands of listings. So I want to make it a little more specific. What we've done is created all of these, every one in blue is an additional landing page about Prescott Homes in certain categories, right? So property type, parking features, community features, property description, right? So we've got it all here, right? There's a bunch of stuff that you can additionally search by in the Prescott area. And it's huge because every one of those is an additional landing page. So my website is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So we're not talking about hundreds of landing pages. We're talking about thousands, right? We have an agent that's got a ton. I'm actually going to talk about him in a minute. But basically what I'm going to do as a consumer is go to Prescott. There's too many listings for me to narrow down. So I'm going to go to, let's do pickleball, right? Pickleball in the Southwest, it's blowing up. I'm not sure, I think it's national, but I'm going to go ahead and click on that because I think we're all, familiar with it. So from the Prescott page, I'm now at Prescott Homes for Sale with pickleball, right? That's a huge thing. The cool thing about it is I have another landing page, custom content, couple paragraphs that not only have to do with pickleball, but pickleball specifically in the area of Prescott, right? So as a consumer, I'm like, wow, here's another page that speaks about specific, Prescott National Forest, Serene Waters, Watson Lake, and we've got pickleball in here, right? As a consumer, I know it's on the page. As Google, look at the address. Listings, city, Prescott, homes with pickleball. So when somebody does homes for sale in Prescott with pickleball features or with pickleball courts, whatever, Google knows that this is a really good search result based on the mapping and the indexing and the content. As a consumer, I've got all of these listings now that are attached to that. And look, my sidebar is still here. So the thing about the sidebar, it's going to increase because you're using pages. It's going to increase the size of the website, and it's going to keep me on the website. I like pickleball communities, but man, I'd really also like to be in a gated community. So now I've got that. So in terms of traffic, we want visitors to the website, but we also want number of page clicks to be really high and time on website. So somebody that comes to my website once a week for 5 minutes and leaves, that's great. What's better if they come to my website, they click on 37 pages, they're on it for 40 minutes or whatever it is. Like Google understands that's even better. And so the more that they can kind of stay on the website, the better that's going to help our SEO. So we want that well-developed sidebar.
And I have a question on that. Some of the people are asking, I need help creating this. I think with a good prompt, Matthew asks, I need help creating this. With some good prompts, you can leverage ChatGPT to give you content for it. It would be the perfect prompt to go to ChatGPT and say, can you please write an article for my website? Keep it short and concise about Prescott Homes with gated parking features.
Yep.
And see what it gives you back. And you can take that and put it in your website. Yeah. There's nothing. So I think you can leverage AI, you can leverage ChatGPT or whatever else you're using out there to enter good detailed prompts. I mean, what a great prompt on the last one. Prescott Homes with pickleball features. Please write it in my voice. and a short article for my website, include keywords that Google might like
Yeah.
when people search. You could literally put that in your prompt for ChatGPT, Matthew, and it will give you a great article to put into your website. So you don't have to hire people for this. And you can do, I'm assuming your client with 1,000 landing pages leveraged AI to create those.
No. So I'm going to talk about him, and I'm sure he is now. He's been with Real Geeks for 15 years before AI was a thing, and I'll kind of tell you his secret. But that's exactly right. Don't look at this. If you have a website and say, wow, I need to build landing pages, you're not going to build 1,000 pages by the end of the week, right? This is something we need to, you know what? I'm going to start building area pages first because that's where a lot of the searches are. Then I'm going to go to my areas and I'm going to add maybe the most popular searches. So I've got pickleball, golf course community, waterfront, whatever, and I'm going to build those in each area. And like Eric said, tell me, what's the best part about living in Prescott with waterfront homes? And ChatGPT is going to put it in there. You can copy paste it, or you can, put it in and then put your own verbiage on. Either ask it to rewrite it like you, like a social media influencer, or just go in and just make little adjustments here and there. To if you say y'all because you're in Texas or whatever it is, make it sound like you. That's probably the best way to do it. Let AI do the heavy lifting. Absolutely. So great question.
All right, keep going, buddy.
Okay, so next, this is, and what we're going to do here is we're going to leave judgment at the door. Okay, this is a website that I play around with from time to time. So we're not gonna make any judgment here. It's not like a real live website. But what I want to show you, for me, the number 4 must have on a website, they're going to be what I call evergreen pages, right? So these are area pages similar to what we just did, right? So you've got Prescott, homes, communities. You've got pickleball, you've got lifestyle, all that's great. But sometimes there's some that don't follow underneath a specific area, right? So these are lifestyle, these are price points. And so what I have done is I've created a handful. So in my area, you've got 3 HOAs, right? These are communities that don't exist in the MLS. So I had to create this page manually, which is fine, super easy to do. But then I wanted to go broader, right? I wanted to do a top listings page, or specifically homes under $500,000, right? So the nice thing about these being an evergreen page is the filter that I've used to create this page. So if I do, 55 and up communities, right? Super popular here in the Southwest. I've got a little content about active adult communities, and these are all listings for, age restricted, active adult, 55 and up. We all call it different things, but we all know what I'm talking about here. So the nice thing about this is this page will always have content. If I clicked on this page today, if I clicked on it a week from now, a year from now, as long as I haven't deleted the page, there's always going to be listings here. The one thing, and that's why it's an evergreen page, right? Because it always exists. The one thing we want to avoid when we're doing this is making a filter on a page too specific, right? So I've got strip living here, right? So we've got condos that are on Las Vegas Boulevard. I didn't add any content there. Shame on me. Now, if I did strip living, but if I did condos under $500,000 with 3 bedrooms and covered parking, and I just go and with a filter, and there's only 2 properties that go through that filter, I probably don't want to build that page, right? Because there's a very good chance that at some point somebody clicks on that and there's not going to be any content there, right? So as far as Google goes, we want content, and as far as the user goes, right? Sometimes a bad experience is worse than not having any experience. And if you get to a page that doesn't have any listings, that's not good. So evergreen means it's kind of wide. It's specific to the user because it's a, if you've got ranch homes or if you've got acreage, right? We want to make sure that it fits. But if you build a page that is too specific, we want to be careful, because with these evergreen pages, why they're so important, why I think they're so unique, is because it does not matter what kind of marketing you're doing. This is amazing for social media, for print media, anything like that. Because, like I said, it will exist. 6 months from now, 2 years from now, if somebody randomly found my flyer and check out the latest 55 and up communities and they scanned it, they'll get to this page. So it's awesome for those kind of marketing components. And it also helps people broaden their search, right? Maybe somebody told you their max budget was, $450,000, and they come in here and they're looking at homes under 500,000, right? That they otherwise might have filtered out because some of these, this wouldn't appear, that wouldn't appear, or that would, I guess, but it's under 500,000. So they're looking at this and they say, oh, well, you know what? My budget was hard at 450, but I really like this home at 495. So it actually allows them to kind of expand their search a little bit without you doing any of the legwork. They're kind of out there doing their own thing. So it's really cool to have those evergreen pages that exist. Also wanted to note, they can be grouped by location, by price point, lifestyle, product type. It doesn't matter, any combination of those. So again, it's really whatever filters that your specific MLS has to offer. Okay, so on that same vein, I do want to make sure, getting more specific, the next must have, if we don't know what lifestyle or price point we want to include, a top listings page is huge, right? So this is kind of a spin-off from the evergreen page. It's a type of evergreen page, but the top listing pages are awesome because often agents will run campaigns and they're not sure what to put, right? Do I just put my home page? Do I add a link that goes to the home valuation tool? Some of us know what kind of marketing we are trying to, or a campaign that we're trying to get at. So that's great. But if you don't know what to do, add a top 10 page, a top list, right? Top 10 waterfront homes, top 10 homes under 500,000, this week's best investment opportunities, like whatever you want to do. It's awesome because people are curious, right? Even if somebody said, I am looking specifically over in, I'm going to get local here. If I'm looking for 3 acres minimum over in Pahrump, that's one type of search. But if I go to the website and I see a page, it's like, man, the top 10 condos on Las Vegas Boulevard, I might click on it, right? I might, just because I'm curious, it has nothing to do with me. And even if me, it doesn't help, but you, it does, because that's more time on the website, more traffic to the website. And everybody is always curious about what the top listings are. Now, spoiler alert, these aren't the top 10 listings here in Las Vegas. I just created a filter. I don't remember what it was. I mean, you've got 600 and a $20 million home. So I think I just did like the 10 newest listings or whatever. But a user doesn't know that, right? The consumer isn't going to go back every 5 minutes. But if I clicked on this link now, and if I click on this link at the end of the day, there's a chance that this list is different, right? So it's evergreen, but it also captures that curiosity. So it's an awesome page to have for those of you that are building area pages and evergreen pages. I would include a top listing page. Okay, so those are, for me, those are like the top 5 kind of website must-haves. I'm going to give you a bonus here, and this is not only a website, but also kind of an act, something to do. Let's do a blog, right? You are real estate agents, you're not bloggers, but I think right now a blog is one of the most underutilized aspects of a lead generation website. This is to Eric's question, or Matthew's question, to Eric's point. Let AI do the heavy lifting for you, right? Search engines, absolutely. They love new pages. They love new and unique content, but don't make it harder than it has to be. So here's, we have a website over in Colorado. So one thing I would say to kind of get an easy, because like, oh, I'm not a blogger. What do I blog about? Go to your Gmail or wherever you get your news, set a news alert for your area and topics like real estate, upcoming events, whatever. Every day, every week, you're going to get some articles. Take those articles and either rewrite a few paragraphs, create a blog post on your website, rewrite a few paragraphs in your own words, even copy paste the link into ChatGPT and say, hey, summarize this, right? If you do that, please be sure to give credit to the original source because that can get you into some hot water. But again, we're adding pages, we're adding blog posts, but we also want to make sure it's up to date, right? So one of the most discouraging things you can see is going to a blog page and seeing that they haven't done anything since like 2022, right? So we want to make sure like this website, it's phenomenal. They've got, outdoor nature escapes, fun stuff to do in Parker, Colorado. And I believe this was just created a couple days ago, so they're actively blogging. And again, people might never come to this. They've been blogging since 2016. Like how awesome is that? You've got all the archives, all the recent stuff. Every one of these is a new landing page. Google loves it. And again, using ChatGPT. Another note here is if you are familiar with websites like, was it Nextdoor, has all that neighborhood, the neighbors griping at each other. And then you've also got patch.com. Those are great ways where I can take a market report page, I can put it into ChatGPT and say, hey, write this data as an article, copy paste that, and now I go to patch.com and I write a blog for my area of Las Vegas of like, hey, here's the trends in Las Vegas. That's now an article on patch.com. Now I have a link from my website or from patch.com to my website. So I've added a backlink. I've created a new page. So it's great ways to be able to kind of reblog. You're not reinventing the wheel. I'm not asking you to be, beat writers. It's just a really easy and cool way to kind of add some of that SEO. Okay. That's pretty much, I mean, I would say my key takeaways, Eric, unless you have any questions before I kind of conclude everything.
Keep going.
Okay. The two biggest takeaways for me from today, if we've kind of ignored some of this, number one, if you have your own website, right? And I'm not talking about a landing page that's provided by the broker or some type of subdomain, your own individual website, go look at it. That's one of the first things Eric said when we opened the call today was most agents got a website and then they've walked away, right? We don't know if links are broken. We don't know if there's some stuff we need to update. I'm not saying log into your website every day and make changes, but once a week, couple times a month, just go in and look at it, right? And again, those of you that had a website for more than 5+ years, check that URL at the top. Make sure it's an HTTPS, not an HTTP, but it should be pretty obvious. Make that change. And then again, regardless of what type of a page you're making, right? An area page, a blog page, evergreen page, doesn't matter. Just make a point to create new landing pages with new content. Make it every week or so, right? This is not something where I said you have to have 1,000 pages by the end of the week. We want to do this one bite at a time, right? And it's an easy way to do it in a bite-size approach. And Eric, the consumer that I was talking about, he's been a partner with us for over 15 years. And what he does, if he gets a search, he creates a landing page. So if Eric calls him and says, hey, I need a 3-bedroom beachfront, it's got to have, can't have more than 2 baths. He goes, great. He creates a search for the consumer and then he turns around and creates a landing page with that exact filter because his thought is, if Eric's looking for this, somebody else might as well. So he was doing this for, and he was part of the inspiration for a new website building tool because he's got over 15,000 landing pages just by, and it takes him 30 seconds. Take the search, create a new page. Google loves it.
I love it. Cameron, thank you so much. Guys, Cameron, when we get you the replay of this webinar, you're going to have a link to Cameron, and Real Geeks does do single agent websites, individual agent websites, and team and brokerage websites. I did see, yes, good job, Cameron. Thanks, Jennifer. I did see some people asking, how do we connect our listings to a website or a landing page? My suggestion is you let a company that does this professionally do it for you. There's lots of them out there. Obviously, we partner with Real Geeks. And so I think there will be a link to Cameron and Real Geeks when you get this recording later today. I also want to remind you guys, these webinars are available for all agents in the world. We do have our own members on these calls as well. So, don't get offended when we send things out to our members. You can also join the community. Our next webinar is with Jimmy Mackin. If you guys don't know Jimmy, he's the founder of Listing Leads. It's August 14th next week at 10 a.m. Mountain Time. We really want you to be there. It's 7 low-cost ways to get more listings. Those of you on this call that are curious about what we do, sign up for our 7-day trial. That will also come out in the email that we send out later today. Teresa says, thank you so much, Eric and Cameron and the BB team. Thank you. Sharon, make sure you come on the webinar with Jimmy next week. He's going to share some golden nuggets. I love it. Matthew says he's a Real Geek member. Never gotten some solid deals from it. Why don't you meet with Cameron? Cameron, why don't we put you in touch with Matthew, and you guys can talk about how to leverage this, and hopefully this webinar helps you optimize it so you start to get more reach to your sphere of influence, to your geographic farm, and other people who are looking for real estate in your area. We really want to make sure that you are leveraging your Real Geeks partnership to the best of your ability.
Yep. I was scrolling back through some of the questions and I did want to touch on one, which is a great question from Canada, right? Does the home valuation tool work in Canada? It does not. So there is different information. There's actually some states where the home valuation tool doesn't work because they're non-disclosure. So if you run a market report, it only shows active and under contract. It doesn't show sold information. So that is a great question. If you are in Canada, we're not going to be able to provide that home valuation just based on the data provided.
Love it, guys. So again, guys, we have a webinar next week. Cameron, thank you. You'll have Cameron's information. You'll have Real Geeks information when the email comes out later today. And then anybody signing up, if you didn't see, put it again up there, Taylor. We're offering a 10% off print for the lifetime of our partnership. And if you're already a member, grab that lifetime 10. So you have a print discount with us if you sign up today. So thanks, guys. We appreciate your time, Cameron, longtime partner. I think I'll see you in a couple weeks, maybe at the Tom Ferry event. But otherwise, guys, thank you for everything. And to our breakthrough team, thank you for doing what you do. And we will see you guys next week. Bye, everybody.
See ya.